Hi, welcome. Welcome back. If you traveled over the President's Weekend, if you were in Cleveland, I am wondering how many of you, like me, are taking pleasure, albeit guilty pleasure, in the very mild February weather we've been enjoying. It has been wonderful to walk outside day after day, even while I know this is not good for nature, for Northeast Ohio, or for our planet. I cannot cite the scientific statistics that detail the confusion in nature's cycles and processes when winter temperatures and precipitation do not fall within normal ranges. But I can quote from the Torah in the book of Leviticus, where God says, "I will send you rain in its season, and the ground will yield its crops, and the trees of the field will yield their fruit." In other words, there is an order to nature ordained in its very creation. God will send rain in its season. This is God's commitment to our existence and our well-being. There is a clear implication here that if we are to be partners with God in this experimental enterprise of life in this world, then we must take care of that which has been entrusted to us. I find it profoundly provocative and unsettling that the fragility of all of God's creation was intuited over 2,500 years ago. Well, let us pause for a moment in gratitude for the air we breathe, the water we drink, the food we eat, the clothes we wear, and the shelter we enjoy. So let us find our meditative postures, our comfortable but present places. I know I'm in a slightly different place than I usually am or have frequently been. And let us settle our feet firmly on the ground. If we are sitting, you might want to stand, you might want to lie down on the ground. People do that. It's very easy to fall. It's easier to fall asleep if you're lying on the ground. But if that's what works, please don't hesitate. And let us just soften our entire beings. We can close our eyes or just not focus particularly. And let us just turn inward for a moment and try to release those places that are so attuned and so alert to everything outside of us, to everything in the world. And we might just think about relaxing the creases on our foreheads, allowing our jaws to release so that we are neither smiling nor frowning, just neutral. Let us unhinge our ears. Even with our hands, we might just rub them a little bit. And allow our necks to roll a bit. Let some of those creaky places feel the loving touch of our attention, which we can direct also to our shoulders as we lift them to our ears and allow them to drop again. Let us look to see, not literally, but let us feel if our arms need some release, some moving around, perhaps our elbows, our forearms. The wrists of our hands, we might just move gently around, wiggle our fingers, allow our hands to rest comfortably in our laps. Many people like to take their meditative postures with their hands open upwards. Seems to be symbolic of just allowing ourselves to be open to whatever is happening in this very moment. I always like to think about our internal organs as well. I think we hold on to them in tense ways. And so let us just see if we can release our tummies, the muscles around our waists. Be aware that our hips are holding us in our positions, our upper legs, our knees. Our knees receive so much abuse. Our lower legs, again, our ankles, which we might twirl like or just move in ways that feel gentle and relaxing, and wiggle our toes. And let all of the parts of our body know that we are thinking about them and loving them, because they are the way we can be in the world. We exist in the world only because of that, not only, but with strength and with activity because of them. And let us take that first intentional breath. And let us just fill our bodies with that expansiveness, and imagine that the air is going in and finding every little corner of our bodies so that it feels animated and vital. Sometimes just a short break to breathe in the middle of the day is enough to make us feel present again, bring us back to attentiveness, to focus if our minds or our spirits have wandered. So we take that first breath. Well, by now, maybe your third or fourth, because I've been talking, but we take that deep breath. It's that it's intentional. It's not just automatic. And we follow it, excuse me, into our bodies, and even hold it if we care to. And then release it, which is equally intentional. We want to pay attention as much to the release as to the inhale. In fact, sometimes we can do a count of 5 or 6 or 7, whatever works for you. And then perhaps hold it for 5 seconds. And then release it on the same count. That's one way. And if you like that, if it resonates with you, just do it. It's perfectly fine. If it doesn't, then you're fine doing it, breathing in and breathing out, however works for you. The point is just to stay with it. So let us do that. Just awareness of the breath going inside of us, and how grateful we are for it. And the release of it. I don't know the science so well, but I am fairly certain I once learned that the breath goes in one way, with one scientific formulation, and when we exhale, it's a slightly different formulation. Is gratitude in this moment for this moment. I have to wonder if expressions of gratitude for the natural gifts we enjoy and upon which our lives depend, were universally uttered regularly and always had been, if we would still be facing the climate crisis, for example, that is upon us. It seems to be so closely related to egotism, selfishness, entitlement, and sheer profligacy. It is hubris on a grand scale. Hubris I do not understand because it is so destructive. Lately, I have found myself thinking more and more of how individuals, communities, whole countries engage in behavior that is not in their self-interest. I struggled with whether to share this with you or not, but it is very much on my mind. I wonder if it is on any of yours. This engaging in behavior that is not in our self-interest is a remarkable feat if we consider the stories we must tell ourselves, the self-deception in which we must engage, or the simple ignoring of basic facts in which we must engage, because the truth is inconvenient. It's not the way we want the world to be. It contradicts our firmly held convictions, or we perceive that it will benefit the other person, but not us. I keep wondering when the world became a place of relativity rather than objectivity. Life is difficult enough without constantly having to judge or decide how to evaluate any random occurrence, large or small. Isn't reality simpler? Does the ground under our feet have to shift even more than it already does? I keep thinking, I may not like it that 2 + 2 = 4, but that doesn't make it false. When did such dismissive attitudes become acceptable? How did it become okay to deny truth, objective fact, impartiality? I know the current political answers to these questions, the personalities that have changed the calculus of our everyday assumptions and expectations. But how did it get this far? How did it get to the point that the very pillars of our democracy are threatened, our schools are compromised, our teachers under siege? I recognize that I am railing against a world I never expected to see or even think about. I thought civilization took pride in science and technology, in education, in culture, in the aspiration of every human being to be better, to do better, to rise above humble surroundings and aspire to a brighter future and a better life for all. I must sound like a naive Pollyanna, but I know that is how I was raised. The world has become a place of unbridled egotism, arrogance, entitlement, and narcissism. It's my way or the highway. It's what I want, what I need, what's best for me, 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 me. It's ugly in human beings. It is even uglier and far more dangerous in countries. I am appalled at what is happening in Israel. Already individuals and corporations are leaving the country in the face of the very real threat that Israel will no longer be a democracy, and some kind of a right-wing theocracy in its place will bring down the entire country and the noble vision of 2,000 years of Zionism. I certainly don't have to look any further than my own country, however, for evidence of acting against one's best interests. The abortion debacle alone is enough to fill volumes. I am horrified that this country is going so far backwards into a dark ages of action and attitude that at its most basic level denies my right to practice my faith as I believe. Women are once again being relegated to second-class citizenship, and a few power-hungry, mean-spirited, and ruthless individuals are bent on destroying a way of being and thinking that I believe close to 90% of this country supports. It is a dark ages of the mind and the spirit, a willing dark ages in which we are all somehow acquiescing. I don't mean to be so negative. I'm not usually, I don't think. What truly puzzles me is our inability to look ahead, to see the consequences of our decisions, and to act in ways that are contrary to our own self-interest. We have known for 2 generations that we would face a time of climate crisis. We have known for centuries that only we could take care of this earth we have been given, and that we would not receive another if we ended up destroying this one. I should not be so surprised or incredulous. As you have heard me explain, I love the Torah because it is a document rooted in reality with a vision of infinite possibilities for goodness and righteousness that we might accomplish tomorrow. We read annually, twice actually, in its regular cycle, and then again on Yom Kippur, these verses from Deuteronomy. Surely, this instruction, which I enjoin upon you, which I want you to take, I want you to understand, is not too baffling for you. It's not so hard to understand, nor is it beyond reach. It is not in the heavens that you should say, who can go up to the heavens and get it for us and give it to us that we may observe it? It is not beyond the sea that you should say, who can cross to the other side of the sea and get it for us and give it to us that we may observe it? No. The thing, meaning the Torah, the laws, the ways to behave, the thing is very close to you, in your mouth and in your heart, to do it. The Torah, the constitution of the Jewish people, is a compendium of laws, 613 to be exact. When we talk about the 613 mitzvot, commandments, that's what we're talking about, laws. The only reason any community, culture, or country needs laws is because people act in destructive ways, in ways that are contrary to the general good, and therefore must be regulated by laws that govern behavior. We still need those laws. We still need that vision, and we still need a system of justice governed by the Torah's ancient formulation. Again, in the book of Deuteronomy, you shall appoint magistrates and officials in all the settlements that the Lord your God is giving you, and they shall govern the people with due justice. You shall not judge unfairly. You shall show no partiality. You shall not take bribes, for bribes blind the eyes of the discerning and upset the plea of the just. Justice, justice shall you pursue, tzedek, tzedek tirdof, that you may thrive and occupy the land that the Lord your God is giving you. We could stop just with that you may thrive. It goes further. You shall not render an unfair decision. Do not favor the poor or show deference to the rich. Judge all people fairly. You shall not make false measures of length, weight, or capacity. You shall have an honest balance, honest weights, an honest pound, an honest ounce. I am your God, who freed you from the land of Egypt. I freed you from the place of undermining, from the place of constriction, from the place of autocracy, from the place of slavery, from the place of injustice. You shall faithfully observe all my laws and my rules. I am Adonai. Justice, justice shall you pursue, which I believe is what the Ukrainians are doing in their extraordinary fight against an enemy that is clearly acting against its own best interests, and that is demonstrating to the world the very worst characteristics of egotism, self-aggrandizement, grandiosity, autocracy, ruthlessness, and delusional thinking. In contrast, in the midst of the most unjust, undeserved, and entirely unprovoked war, President Zelensky is a shining beacon of decent, honest, compassionate leadership. To my mind, this is my opinion, he exemplifies the best of humanity in the worst of circumstances. I was deeply moved this week by the image of President Biden walking side by side with President Zelensky, and then speaking eloquently of freedom, of the United States' unwavering support, and the ongoing responsibility of a community of nations that cares about freedom. I was further heartened by other subsequent meetings in Poland, of all places, to ensure that Ukraine will be unhesitatingly supported by Europe and the NATO alliance. I was inspired. I believe the world witnessed in Ukraine and Poland this week true leadership and heroism, as well as hope, vision, and the willingness to be better, to do better, and to aspire to bring the entire world to a better place of peace and understanding. Let us take another break to breathe with images of hope in our hearts, in our minds, in our imaginations, with which we can breathe in and breathe out. It would be nice if we could breathe out with our breath all of the instincts, the negative instincts that seem to proliferate so easily. It would be nice if we could fill up ourselves, our spirits, with such goodness on the inhale, and let go of everything that undermines us, and thereby those around us, and thereby our communities, etc., on the exhale. But perhaps we can at least hold on in our inhales to this moment's hopefulness, optimism, if we can feel that, positivity with which to go forward. And we find this moment's truth in our lives. Through the simple inhale and exhale of the greatest gift of lives. By way of conclusion, and even benediction for the days ahead, I share with you these words from the Israeli poet, Yehuda Amichai. It is his poem entitled, "The Place Where We Are Right." And in my own mind, I think we could substitute for that word right, in the place where we are right, words like in the place where we are self-serving, in the place where we are selfish, in the place where we are egotistic. Flowers will never grow in the spring. The place where we are right is hard and trampled like a yard. But doubts and loves dig up the world like a mole, a plow, and a whisper will be heard in the place where the ruined house once stood. May you have a good week. May you be healthy and strong. And know that from the place where we are right, flowers will never grow in the spring. Let us plant flowers with our lives. God bless. See you next time.